So this video is going to be a bit different because almost all the advice online on how to get clients or scale as a shadow operator comes from other shadow operators. So in today's video, you're going to learn how to get clients and scale to 10K per month as a shadow operator by getting the perspective from an actual client slash creator. In fact, it's actually one of my clients, and they're going to show you the exact mistakes you're making that repels clients, why you aren't getting replies or meetings booked or clients and deals closed. That way, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what you need to change. All right, guys, today we are here with Dwayne, who's actually my client. And Dwayne, tell us who you are, your background, and who you are.
Hello, my name is Dwayne, and my background, I work in tech right now at AI engineer. I was the principal engineer on the project working directly with Apple Vision Pro. I have worked with EA, which I designed their facial system and a lot of their techniques, which that's how I was introduced and started implementing like AI and into their systems. So 10 years ago, I used to code it. Yeah, worked with Sony ImageWorks, worked with Netflix, with building on like The Witcher. I was the CG rigging supervisor for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And Dwayne, like you've now are taking like your past skill set of like and talents and launched courses and offers online as well.
Yes, I saw that a lot of times when I get hired by companies, the first thing that needs to be done is actually transfer that knowledge and train a team on
Mhm.
learning how to do these things. You have to have the foundation before you start actually building anything tangible with it. So it gave me the idea that, okay, well, if I make online training, when people coming to the industry, you already have the foundation with that. So that's how I started basically making online courses and training to fill that gap.
Now, of course, Dwayne, right now we're launching a webinar for your offer, and I really thought, okay, Dwayne, since I train, beginners, to of course get clients, as shadow operators, and of course launch their YouTube channels, scale their IG accounts, launch their emails, their offers, Dwayne. I figured, Dwayne, instead of me telling them, okay, my thoughts and of course my point of view, what if we ask the actual creator like you, what you think, and of course what you like and don't like. So, Dwayne, let me ask, what are some like red flags or things you don't like to see or be pitched from like either a beginner or a shadow operator as a client, whether it's in an email or DM, Dwayne? Like, what do you not like, and like what are like the red flags?
From a shadow operator, well, I have been approached. I still get approached by people they always the thing is they always make a unrealistic promise
Mhm.
saying like in the next 5 days, grow 10x or something like that. They don't even know my industry. They don't even use a jargon. And the other thing is they start using words or metrics that I didn't understand, right?
Mhm.
And I've been burned in the past. I realized once I made my products and I didn't know how to sell them or market them, I had people come up to me and say, "Hey, we could get this amount of views or impressions." At the time, I didn't know that that meant at all. So
Mhm.
I trusted them and put it in. Spent a lot of money doing that, and they they claimed they got results, saying like, "Look, it was a great campaign. Look at how many impressions," but no sales came across. No, my expertise was not put it out there. I didn't see any difference. All I just saw that it was just burning a hole in my pocket because I was just paying them. So I find that one of the red flags is if people come in and they come in and they're trying to pitch you on something when you don't understand and they're just pushing you and they claim that they did a good job just because of a metric that
Mhm.
is arbitrary and you don't even understand what it means, and they just take the money and move on and don't really care to find out what you're doing, how to position yourself, how to build it out. They're just trying to make a quick buck and turn around and go. I think that's a big red flag, and I get a lot of those things, right? And the other thing is, not only well, they could explain the path and why you're going that way, which they don't do, right? A lot of the other people, and explain pretty much it's kind of like making KPIs or like key performance indicators, saying, okay, well, this is where the end goal, what we want to do, but here's the path and the waypoints or the checkpoints that we're gonna hit first and on the way up there, right? And our first goal is to get to this first step, hit this first milestone. And I think that's more realistic because you're like, okay, that's obtainable. I could get from step one to step two with the guidance, and I know it's along the path, as opposed to you don't know anything, that all of a sudden you have great success, which and is not even it doesn't even make any sense how, but they're just trying to get your sale, right?
Dwayne, that's true. And for my students, I always tell them, right, to sell the roadmap. So step 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 to the end goal, because clients want to see like a clear map, right, a clear plan to achieve the results first.
Yes, yes, and it definitely you can see as you go from step one to step two, and especially if you break it down and okay, that's obtainable, and once you achieve that, you're on the right path. And it's also motivating to keep going to the next. You're like, okay, achieve that goal. We know the map and we're on schedule. We're on target. Let's keep going. It makes sense to me.
So Dwayne, you mentioned not knowing like your niche or market industry. Like how important to you is that for a beginner?
The thing is about that is that at the beginning, knowing there's the concept of like, I guess, product market fit and offer market fit, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen if you use the right frameworks and the right strategy, it will work. But if you don't know the industry and you just because you put it in those frameworks is not going to you're not going to get any results. If you're making an offer that nobody wants, you could have the best shadow operators or marketers behind, and they could say all these results, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will work in this space if you don't have it dialed in correctly, right? So you have to know how what will work and get that data beforehand, and knowing how to do that before you turn all the knobs and turn on the machine is very, very
Mhm.
important for that. And I think that's another red flag that you brought it up is that if someone comes in and they promise they could blow up your operations and they don't even know your operations,
Yeah.
like how can anyone make that promise? Because they don't know what works, they haven't audited it, and especially if they don't know the space, right? And I could give an example of that where I've met some other people who said, "Hey, well, I'm a media buyer," basically meaning that they go in and they buy ad spots for you
Mhm.
on like Facebook or YouTube, Instagram, things like that, right?
Mhm.
So, and they said, "Yeah, I've done millions, and I worked with $1 million budgets on sales and things like that, right?"
Mhm.
But the thing is about that is that the person they work for already had a brand or they're already big, and literally anyone could have came in and just followed that system and worked because everything's already dialed in, right? But if you're
Mhm.
starting out, that's not dialed in for you yet. That same person could use the exact same structure, but not tuned to your offer, your expertise, or your product, and you're not going to get the results.
Yeah.
So having working with someone who knows how to get that information, extract that, and present that, and first, then build everything around it, then it will work.
And Dwayne, I'm sure like you've seen from our calls, right? I come with like all this data and they're just swipe files of emails, offers I've seen, ads. Because Dwayne, I know, right? Like for any beginner or myself included too, data wins, right? Just get the right data on the market, the offer, the ads, the angles, the copy, the email. Just get the data, right? Copy and
Right.
paste for lack of better words, and the results kind of will follow, right? In a sense.
Yes, exactly. And what I would add on that as well is that you're actually making it make it comparable to where, in my example, like where I am right now, where it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to go and look at a big following. The name alone will push, right? So you can't just go in and take that, and because you can't really tell from the data is like, well, is it the name pulling it or is it actual offer, right?
Promoting.
Whereas if you look at someone comparable to you, like, okay, well, you're not known yet. You're doing
Mhm.
these things, and you're seeing how it's reacting. Like, okay, that's a good signal. We could go down that route. We could lock in on that. And once you know this works, okay, we put all these other systems there. But you also explain what the roadmap is, why the system will work, and when we need to unlock it, because things have to fall in place. The data has to basically back that up before you move forward with it.
So Dwayne, what's one more red flag that would disqualify anyone from again working with you just based on either their knowledge or experience, their tone, mindset, behavior? Like, what's it?
I think the biggest one of the biggest ones is understanding what you've tried to achieve in the first place, like actually being aligned with
Yeah.
it. It's I have some people come and approach me and they said, "Hey, we could blow up your operations," right? But they didn't even know what I was trying to do with it.
Mhm.
So they jump on the call. They weren't listening at all what I was trying to say. They're like, "Oh, if you want to get this goal, go this goal." And I'm like, "I'm not trying to get that." And these are the reasons why I'm not trying to do that. This is what I'm actually trying to do.
Mhm.
Can you align with that? And they're kind of like dismissing me because they're trying to pigeonhole me into their system. And I'm
Mhm.
kind of like would be just like another number for them and another source of revenue, but it's not at all aligned with what I'm actually trying to do with it.
Mhm.
So yeah, if someone's trying to come in and they're just trying to up their numbers and not really trying to scale what I'm actually trying to do, that's a red flag.
So Dwayne, one common issue that most shadow operators like run into is when they DM creators and of course clients via email or Instagram. The client says that, hey, I know how to do all this, AI stuff or the funnel stuff, offer stuff. I don't need you. Like, one, do you think that's true? And two, if it is true, like how can they kind of like how can they overcome that common objection in a sense?
In general, I don't think it's true a lot of the
Yeah,
times. Mainly because one, if it was true, they probably wouldn't even take the call in the first place, right?
yeah.
I think when people come up and like, okay, I already know this stuff, is more of a defense mechanism because for the same thing I mentioned before, you get DM'd and you get bombarded. You go onto social media and you get bombarded by ads, and they kind of like play to your emotions. You're like, oh, this sounds like what I want, but they don't actually do the fulfillment part of actually solving your problem. And when it
Mhm.
happens so often, you get burned, you just become jaded, right? And you think everybody's terrible, which is not necessarily true. It's just that you have to find the signal from the noise from that.
Yeah.
So, and I think again, acknowledging, okay, well, do you have what you want right now? What is what you want, and what is the gap between what's missing? I think
Mhm.
that's where you could actually identify that, and you could actually have a real conversation and not be adversarial at that point. Confrontational.
There we go. Now, Dwayne, at this point, we've discussed all the things they do wrong and kind of disqualify them from getting clients. So, what are some of the things that make them stand out to you? Like whether it's in an email, a cold DM, like what are the things that you see? Like, oh, all right, that sounds cool, or "Wait, I like that, or let's talk more in a sense.
Okay, so for me to one is like they actually listening to the pain point of what I'm trying to do, right? And acknowledge and actually have a realistic game plan for it. So I mentioned earlier that this is what I'm trying to do, right? And this is the results I'm getting right now, and it's not the results I want. And what's
Mhm.
stopping me from here? And if they could fill that gap with a reasonable approach, and I guess I call it KPIs, but basically indicators or milestones of how to get there in a realistic way, that that makes sense to me, right? With a real plan and why it works, and be able to explain it and how to move forward, like basically how to measure it, right?
Mhm.
And knowing again, especially my background is technical, right? So I'm more data driven. If it's
Mhm.
proven that okay, this makes sense, we hit our goal, let's move to the next step. And there, especially with my past, where dealing with other people, is that you're not pushing forward to move on just to go to the next step if the first step wasn't accomplished, right? Is that okay? We plan to do this, is not hitting the numbers. Let's go back. Let's figure out why that's not working. Because if the foundation is not working well, is not going to the rest of it's going to fall apart, right? And very, very few people I've met or talked to approach it that way. It's more of like, hey, just do this and it will work out. And then they disappear, right? And then they come back and say, well, our numbers, according to me, says it's good. So you should be happy. And like, yeah, but you're not at all achieving the goal, right?
Mhm.
So,
So Dwayne, it's funny because you said like the words like plan, like proven. Dwayne, I always tell every single student or even like here like on YouTube, like my free viewers, hey, just make a plan, right? Make a proven plan, based on data. Show it to them in the DMs or in email. They will watch it. They'll say, "Oh, this sounds cool. Let's get on a call. Awesome, you're cool too. Let's do a deal, right? Rev share, boom, done. Like it's right, literally just getting data, right? Making a plan that's proven, and that's it. Right? Just show a plan, show a system, show the map to them. That's all you gotta do.
yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Is like you asked the question earlier, what is something that catches your attention? Well, you talk to
Yeah.
someone's pain point that that automatically calls them out. You're like, oh, I have that pain point. So you get their attention. Now, to keep their attention is like, okay, well, like I said, nowadays it might be easier years ago, or especially advertisement in the past, where there's less noise. So pretty much every signal, everyone believed it, right? But now you're so bombarded with it, is that now people come with skepticism, right? They're very skeptical of what the messaging is there. So you kind of like no matter what you say is like, yeah, I heard that before. So you kind of have to prove it to them. So if you say like, this is what your pain point, this is my solution to it, and here's the step, and here's proof that is done before, people will pay attention. It's a simple. It sounds simple, but it really is that because a lot of times a lot of other messaging, a lot of the noise is they do something grand, something like very theatrical to get your attention, and you get caught up in the moment, but you don't really prove anything. Um, and then you go through and then you're left high and dry with that. Again, going out and showing pretty much your process and any data to back up of why that process worked, then they get it. Okay, they believe you at that point, right? And at least they have something to believe in you on that, at least enough to take you serious enough
Mhm.
to inquire, right? And then the next thing is, okay, well, what you want from me, or basically the call to action. Well, if you want to know more of how this could work for you, then book a call or talk to me or DM me or get in contact. Let's see, we can make it a deal. And if it's a fit for what we're doing, can apply in your situation.
And that data, Dwayne, it can be right just research, correct? On YouTube, Instagram, content, markets, email, right?
Yeah, it could be is anything that cooperates that story, especially if they could go and see it themselves, right? A lot of times, if you see a third party, if you mention certain thing, and they could go onto that same page on YouTube or an Instagram or whatnot, see it themselves, they they'll believe it more, right? It's
Yep.
again, people want to believe. It's just that they're so jaded with all the messaging nowadays. Is that by defense, they're guarded, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
All right, Dwayne. Any last words for the viewers?
From my point of view, I think it's very helpful to have someone that's able to take the content or the knowledge and package it and present it in a proper way so it actually gets an ROI or return on investment. Because I believe a lot of people, in fact, probably most people actually do work hard, but
Mhm.
I don't think it's an effort issue, but it's where you put your effort to get the most bang for your buck in that sense, right? So if I'm I've been putting out information or knowledge for years, but it wasn't in the right format, wasn't
Mhm.
targeting the right audience, and even build a following, but it wasn't my ideal customer profile, for example, right?
Right.
So when I look at it, like, okay, well, I believe I'm doing everything right, at least on a high level, but I didn't know all the nuance with that. Well, working with someone who actually does and able to iterate quickly because you try something, you look at it, okay, well, it's going in the wrong direction. You need to change it this way, or else you're going to track this type, which is not what you are trying to do right now. So I think it's definitely helpful is actually so you don't want to be spinning your wheels. You're going to be working hard right away. At least you want to get the results that's desirable.
True. And Dwayne, I will say the majority of, of my audience, are beginners starting their journey online. So, as someone who's been through, like the learning curves and like the ups and downs, the peaks and the valleys, like what's your one last line for them to stick through it and again believe in the journey and force the growth?
Well, for me, anytime I have done a lot of things new in the past, to learn different industries. And what I've always tried to do is try to find someone who's done it, who's walked the path,
Mhm.
and like learn from them, right? They've proven they already trailblazed it. Why try to reinvent the wheel? It's kind of like if I could go in and try to figure out the maze myself, but my main goal is to get to the end of the maze. So why spend all that time trying to figure out when I'm like, hey, this person did it. Can you just gi- give me the map so I can get to the end of the maze? You know what I mean? So we
Yeah.
could just move on with this. So that's how I always look at things: is that if you're gonna do something, look at someone who's done it before,
Mhm.
who's excelled in that, and learn from there. As opposed, I mean, yeah, you go and learn everything from scratch. But if that was the case, I mean, our whole evolution is about like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? It's the
Yeah.
next generation learn from the last, right? If imagine every single generation they have to start from scratch, we wouldn't have smartphones, we wouldn't have electricity, we wouldn't have everything. We will still be trying to invent the wheel. You know what I mean? Literally. So, uh, if if you unless you're trying to be an inventor, and you like to go through pain, just get the answers and move on so you can actually excel and be lucrative in in your endeavors.
True. And disclaimer: I did not pay Dwayne to say that for my program or my offers or any sales is being made. Nope, there's no sale here, guys. Just so you know, that's Dwayne's honest thoughts. And all right, that's the end of the video, Dwayne. Thank you for coming. See ya.
Thank you. But
Stop it there, Dwayne. Thank you.